So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Jerry Janda. I'm a member of the Community and Influencers team, and I'll be one of your hosts for today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining and welcoming you to our community call. The topic is SAP TechEd highlights and upcoming 2021 SAP community activities. I believe I got that right. So I'm joined by three managers from the team today. For those of you who participated in TechEd last week, you probably recognize them all, especially if you were watching Channel 1. First off, we have Thomas Grassl, who's our Vice President, heads up the Developer and Community Relations team. Good afternoon, Thomas. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Jerry. Hello.
We also have Craig Cmehil, who is VP and head of my team, the Community and Influencers Group. Hi, Craig, how are you this afternoon?
Doing good. Hi, everybody.
Good. Thanks for being here, Craig. And then finally, we have Thomas Jung, who is the head of our Developer Advocacy team. Thomas, how are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. So just to give everyone a quick breakdown of the agenda before I turn things over to these gentlemen, both Thomases will kick things off with going over the main highlights from SAP TechEd from last week. And then from there, they'll throw things over to Craig, who will talk about the virtual event experience, the SAP TechEd virtual event experience. Then we'll go back over to Thomas Grassl, who'll talk a little bit about post-SAP TechEd activities in the community. And finally, we should have enough time at the end for Q&A. If you do want to ask a question, you're all on mute. You can raise your hand. We can unmute you. You should also see an option in the panel called Q&A. Please put your questions in there. I'm here with my colleague, Julia Russa, who's also going to help me keep an eye on things. So on that note, I will hand things over to Thomas and Thomas.
Okay, good. Then I can start as as one of the Thomases. So I think by now, TechEd 2020 is behind us, but it's not really over. I think this is a very important item to clarify. Even if you have not registered for TechEd and you missed it last week because you were the busy customer project or you had to go live or whatever, the platform is open. What we did last week was basically the main highlight for the 48 hours to get the attention, to get the awareness out to everybody in the world. This is also why we basically ran this as a 48-hour event, to get the full attention of the audience and ultimately show everybody what is available for you at TechEd. You probably have seen it. We drove as a central place this via Channel 1. Channel 1, and I think Craig will talk more about it, was designed to keep everybody informed on what is going on. So it was kind of like our landing pad for everybody who was interested in TechEd. But then there was much more detailed content behind it. So in Channel 1, if you only have watched Channel 1, there's still more content for you to consume. It probably gets you over the holidays and into January to watch it. I haven't tracked it. It's a good question. I need to figure out like if there's someone who is leading right now, like, or how many sessions is the maximum one person did in the back end of the platform. To see, and also, as I said before, the platform is still open, it stays open. We're currently discussing between 6 months and longer, so there's a little bit of debate on like how long is the content relevant. I think like most of the content is definitely relevant for a longer time, and that's what we want to offer. In addition, and I think this was also a big change, doing it as a virtual event, like one I touched on, it's globally available. So wherever you are, you can access it. The other thing is like we really also increased the reach of the event. There's over 80,000 people who have registered for the event. We still see people coming in, registering, watching ongoing the sessions like in the platform. What we're also now doing is we're pushing out a lot of the content into public spaces. The reason for that is because the platform, you need a log on, so it's harder for the search engines to pick up. And I think we want to share also the content with the folks who are not so familiar and find it, and then potentially go back to the platform and into the TechEd platform and explore more. I think it was definitely a big change for us on the SAP side to move it from a physical one to a virtual one. But we also looked a lot into the content. I saw yesterday some pickup that there might be less, or it was in a blog post, there might have been less content than what was there in the physical events. From the content, we were basically about the same as we had it in Barcelona. So the North America always had most content in the physical world. But we also added a few new tracks in there. So the one is around the customer experience. The other one was partner community. So with tracks and sessions directly for our partners out there. So it might have been like that there's a slight decrease on content what was provided through TechEd. But then also in the formats, you still have the chance of these workshops, which is the concept from the hands-on, but we did not want to name it hands-on because we knew it's a slightly different experience. It's not that we could send everybody who attends hands-on a laptop with a backend system installed or whatever. So this is like where we really had to also look into ways on how to make it an experience that you can use your PC and work on that one. The other thing is a few stats around TechEd is we attracted a lot of new people. We had over 4,000 students in TechEd, so that's great for us to see that we get folks in there who are before they're making their career decisions or on the path to make a career decision interested in SAP. Another interesting stat is 10% of the attendees knew about SAP, but have not really worked with SAP. So these are new folks who are interested. And there's also like a big thing for us to do the virtual events and enabling that one, that we get also new people in and attending. Ultimately, the reach of the event was much bigger than any physical event we ever did before. There's channel 1, just to give you an idea, this is not 100,000, we're talking millions who have watched channel 1. So that's definitely also something where we can get the message out to more people. And ultimately, yes, the only thing I would have wished is to even further connect with everybody out there. We tried this very much like with the Q&A sessions, with the workshops, but also with the Q&A on the sessions itself to have the chance to connect to the experts. And in the grand scale, this worked very well. Definitely took also some notes where we can do some tweaks going forward. But I think this was on a virtual way to make this connection between SAP and the network and the community out there. And I think what I also liked, but I know Craig will talk about it more, is to have a lot of the community folks directly involved in TechEd. So I don't know, Thomas Jung, if you want to chime in, your team was like there was a lot of people involved. I think like you would not believe how many people are there behind the scenes, but it was even greater to see for all the people who worked so hard over the last months to see the reaction and the response from all of you attending TechEd. So Tom, over to you.
Yeah, I thought I'd point out some of the stuff, particularly for developers that might be interested, that came out of TechEd. First of all was the workshops. I see in the chat that somebody mentioned that they really like the fact that the workshops the content is available on GitHub, and that's probably the biggest change. I mean, yes, they're having to register and having to provide systems is still something that we're working the kinks out of, but the fact that in previous years the only way to get to even see the hands-on exercises, steps, and screenshots and everything, you had to be a registered attendee at one of the TechEds. But this year we made them available on GitHub publicly. Anybody in the world without registering for TechEd or anything can come and at least look at those exercises. Many of them can be performed on the free trial landscapes. Not all, but many of them can. So even if you didn't get a chance to get into one of the workshops, there's still many of them that you can do on your own, or at least walk through and learn by just reading about the steps, if nothing else. So it's great to open that up. And like I said, they're out there on GitHub. You can go through them, and for many of them, GitHub has an issues part of it as well. And if you get stuck doing one of the exercises, we encourage you to either go to the community Q&A and ask a question, or use the issues feature in GitHub itself, and that'll get right back to the session owner that created that particular workshop. So the interaction and the opportunity to learn did not end when TechEd, the 49 hours ended. The stuff is all still out there and available. The other things that I would point out, Thomas Grassl mentioned Channel 1, and Craig's going to talk about it more, but inside there we had something brand new this year, which was a developer keynote. So the idea was, let's take the idea of the keynote where all eyes are on this thing and do something just for developers. And it was a great opportunity for SAP, like I said, to have a huge audience. And we wanted to put as much in there as we could when you have that incredible audience. But we also wanted to use it to really show the breadth of what's possible, but most importantly, how accessible the development experience is to different types of developers. And I know some people watched the keynote and gave us feedback. It's like, oh, who could know all those things? Because we used ABAP, and we used CAP development, and we did some cloud native development, and we deployed to Cmehil. It was the full breadth of the developer experience. But that's really the point, is we had 3 developers, and no one of those 3 knew all 3 parts. You come in with what you know, and you're still able to interact and work with other developers that might have a completely different skill set, but at the end, build one application that all works together. So I really hope that's one of the main things that people take away from that. And once again, it was a lot to absorb in 40 minutes. It was a lot for us to put in there in 40 minutes, but we released all the source code behind the keynote to GitHub as well. And we have Docker images, and we have instructions on how we created it, and kind of behind the scenes stuff out there as well, all the scripts that we used to test stuff. So we really wanted it to be an ongoing learning experience there as well. Something that, oh, I saw the keynote, sparked my idea. 6 months later, I'm working on a project. Oh, I remember what I saw in the keynote. I can go look at how they did that and be able to do it on my own project. So that's what we really hope, is that it lives on well after the initial introduction there. And then I think the final thing we saw for developers was in the executive keynotes itself. In Jürgen's keynote, it was developer. He talked about the different developer personas and how they work together, which went really well with the developer keynote. He talked about the developer experience from expanding into a low-code, no-code environment as well, and some of the new tools that SAP is offering there. On day 2, we had Jodel, a member from the community, on to share his experience as a developer growing in the SAP ecosystem. And then we intermixed with that some of the latest capabilities for developers in the Business Application Studio and in the Cloud Application Programming model, including an announcement that the HANA tools are now going to be available within a few days here in the Business Application Studio as well. So I think, this is a great year to be a developer. That there's always lots of content at TechEd for developers, but even more so this year, there's a real focus on developers. And I hope all the developers out there in the community felt that and appreciate it. So,
okay,
back over to you, Thomas or Craig.
I think we can, if neither one of you have anything to add, the next item on the agenda was for Craig, and that was to talk about sort of the experience of putting it all together. So thank you both, Thomas and Thomas. Craig, we'll hand it over to you for now.
And I think it's a perfect moment, as Nabit just wrote into the chat, flawless execution. And as much as I would love to agree, flawless, luckily for you guys, it looked that way, or at least we hope it did. You know, there's a lot of moving parts to doing something like this, more than we imagined or even understood when we stepped into the whole building to get going with it. So the whole idea behind Channel One, as Thomas said, the first Thomas said, you know, about, you know, we wanted to have a place where we can kind of bring it together, give everybody kind of like a walking guide, or a kind of a walk through the whole thing. You know, when you're at TechEd, a physical TechEd, going to the show floor, coming by the developer garage, or going to one of the booths or something, you're always able to talk to somebody, or you see somebody that you know or recognize, and you're like, oh yeah, you know, hey, you know, I was thinking about this, that, and the other. And in this environment, it got difficult. The online track folks were so generous and opened up their Discord server for other people to join. So you had a way to do that. And through Channel One, we wanted to try our best to kind of guide you through the 2 days, to give you kind of a cornerstone that you could anchor to and say, yeah, okay, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to go to next. And we wanted to kind of surprise you and to bring all of you into it as much as possible. Hence the social media stuff, and then the different talks and the interviews that we had and the remote check-ins. Because like all of you, we were missing that part too. And I think I saw it a little bit earlier in chat. I think it was Douglas who said, you know, other than the obvious missing of the connecting to people, you know, it was a great TechEd, but yeah, we miss the connecting to people as well. We miss connecting to all of you. And this year we had an opportunity where we could expand and increase and the different ways that we do connect. And it was, I think, a fantastic opportunity for us. And we got to learn a lot about all of you and how you want to interact in these crazy times. And so it was a great, on our side, a great experience. There was a lot of people behind the scenes. I'm sure if anybody was watching, and you know, the whole Craig's super excited. I'm still super excited. The technology was absolutely amazing. Our the fact that we had the opportunity to use the technology was fantastic. That SAP put the backing and the support and the effort behind to really let us try and do something new and do something different and try to make up for the craziness that we were dealing with. It was a great opportunity for us. I cannot thank everybody enough. We had so many private messages and behind the scenes messages and people letting us know this, that, or the other. People sending us messages saying, hey, by the way, there's a problem over here, or there's a confusion over here, that we were able to address it during Channel One. And it was, for us, I don't think it could have gotten any better, because when we're at those physical events and there's a problem, there's not always a person to go tell it to. There's not always a person to go and let somebody know that, hey, this is working really cool, please go do more of this. Let alone, hey, you know, they ran out of water over in Hall D, right? So the fact that you guys were there, that you were engaged with all of us, made the event for us the most memorable one ever. And you know, that experience, and we want to make sure that we go forward. And you've seen it in multiple places. We do want your feedback. We want to hear what you thought. We want to hear what you were thinking about it. We've got the upcoming weeks of TechEd coming up, right? You know, as they were just saying, the content's going to remain available. We're going to have a lot more available. We need your feedback. We want your feedback. It was not the ideal situation, but maybe this starts something new for us. So if you guys are willing to share with us your thoughts and your ideas and everything like that, maybe we can turn 2021 into a year that is going to set a stage, no pun intended, for what comes next in the whole event space for SAP and the community. So, you know, for us, you guys made it a success. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Craig. So I think at this point on the agenda, we'll hand things back over to Thomas to talk a little bit about some of the post-event activities we can expect in the community.
Yeah, so
And I'm sorry, Thomas Grassl. I guess I should specify which Thomas.
No, I think the internal code word is Tom and Thomas, so that's how we differentiate.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you.
Good. Now, so as I initially also talked about it, TechEd is not over, and the platform is open. But then we also noticed, and I just did in parallel, also checking like how many people are still watching the sessions, and it's in the 100,000. So this is like where people are like consuming on the TechEd platform. So this is great to see, and we do expect by leaving it open that more folks still have a chance. But we're also aware that what is missing or what is not there compared to the 48 hours is the access to the experts. And this is the part we want to continue and roll over into the SAP community and really have a focus on that one in the January, February, March timeframe. So this should, and please spread the news. We will definitely also do our news sharing out there. But so for example, have a quiet time over the holidays or after, and you get some time to check out a workshop and you cannot complete it, we're looking into the more popular ones to then have the expert come back and help you. This is like one example. Or we see already now, like from the sessions where there is a lot of questions being asked in these sessions, so this is stuff like what we go into. Let's invite the product expert again of these different tracks and sessions in, and make that one similar to here, like a community call with these experts. So you can then have a deep dive into HANA, into Cloud Platform, into analytics, into S4. If you have a question about move to S4, like that's exactly what we want to offer throughout the community in the January, February, March timeframe. Also looking forward to get some of the executive, again, like we had a great response from the community about this question, the openness. And thanks to you, executives are happy to say, okay, if there are more questions and we can help, let's come back here and discuss it in the community. So there is one thing to remember. I think if you go to the community homepage, you should find this already, but there is also now a TechEd 2020 topic page. I just posted it into the chat, which you can go over the next weeks. You probably will see a schedule popping up. We will inform everybody in the community, or also like who has attended TechEd about this. I think that I haven't seen it if there was already a post TechEd email or like not, but that should be exactly included into a link. And this is what we're looking forward then to go through this. Our plan is to do it kind of by topics. So really pick a week and say, okay, that week we focus on application development and integration. Next week we focus more on S4. The other week we focus on analytics. And then have also, again, a solid agenda. We probably spread it out because this feedback we also got from a lot of folks that, yeah, like carving out a day or two. I'm kudos to. I got so many messages that apparently a few folks took vacation to stay on TechEd. So this is amazing, and watched it and so on. But I think it's also like what we're trying then in the community, and potentially also like have recordings of these sessions or do office hours check-ins around these topics. So you can come with your questions loaded and also discuss them in the community. So this is all ahead of us. So if you're sad that TechEd is over, it's not over. And definitely we want to kind of like you see this now in the virtual world is, yeah, like to do the event, get everybody virtually together, get everybody connected, updated, but then have the discussion going on through the community. I think this is our goal, what we want to offer here and enable you. And yeah, looking forward to the participation and seeing you then in the new year, following on the same topics in the community.
Great. Thank you, Thomas. And that leaves us, wow, like 30 minutes for Q&A, unless there was anything else any of you'd like to add about TechEd and the experience before we sort of open things up to the participants here. If not, we can go ahead and start going through. There is a Q&A option at the bottom there, and I see some questions have come in, and I think, guys, you can see those if there's any that interest you and you'd like to answer. You can also raise your hand, and we can take you off mute if you prefer to ask your question that way. So I think we'll go ahead and get started with this question, which I'm seeing a lot of positive comments in the chat. This is probably one of the few criticisms that I am seeing. We had a lot of no-shows in the sessions with limited participants, workshops, expert Q&A. What could we do to improve that for next time? Anyone care to address that one?
Yeah, so I can address that one. Is sometimes you know the known knowns also when you go into an event that like where we had challenges, and to look at it, it was very difficult to do virtual workshops, and we scanned the landscape on virtual events, who is doing such virtual workshops. We got a lot of advice not to do it. But I think I was as crazy to say to the team, let's get it done, let's do it. So we had a mixture. We had workshops in there which were fully booked, and we had workshops. We had one technical glitch. There was a time frame for like 3 hours where we had issues to get from the community platform, from the TechEd platform where you registered, the links out to the Zoom events. So that was a 3-4 hour window. That's where some folks got in, some others got not in. Worst case was we had experts not getting in. But the other thing was like, yeah, we to work on wait lists and that part. To a certain degree, it's also sad to see that a lot of people hogged the wait list, even if we reminded them to, if you're not attending, please sign off and give up the spot. That didn't happen. So one thing, as we want to also address it going forward, is like, first of all, as Tom outlined, the majority of these workshops, I think like all the instructions are on GitHub public. And I was in one call with some external folks, and they said like, well, I figured out that all the materials is public. I did 8 workshops in one evening. That's great to hear. And I think this is also something we want to then address in the January, February, March timeframe, that you can do these workshops on your own. But then if you get stuck, that we have then these workshops, Q&As or follow-ups or office hours where you can come in and then have a chance like to ask these questions. Also encourage you, yeah, open a question in the community around these workshops, and we can bring the experts there in there. So the material is there. It's just not the same experience as you would have in a physical world, where like, okay, if an instructor there, you raise your hand, the instructor walks over you. It's just like areas where we need to look into. But overall, I'm very happy that we got it out. I see the positive response. I see that folks are really appreciating the content that it is available, and yeah, like to get more people in. It's hard. Like we also know how many workshops can we handle with the experts we have in the background, and like to get 10,000s of people into a workshop room is also not an option for us, because then the quality would suffer. Good. And I don't know, Tom, you did some workshops. I don't know if you had other feedback and insight.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to rethink what a workshop is in a virtual environment, and attendees have to kind of rethink their expectations of a workshop in a virtual environment. We have to get to a point where it's a more asynchronous experience, where maybe the expectation isn't that you show up in a room and do the exercises, that you've done them in advance, and you show up with your questions, or you show up, or vice versa. You show up to see a demo of the exercises, and then you go away and do them on your own. That's, I think, what we see is that's the only way these things scale in a virtual environment. But I think through our experience at TechEd and some of the things we did before TechEd, like Devtoberfest, we're starting to get a pretty good idea of how we could do this at a larger scale, and that's something that we're already looking to improve for next year.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Craig.
There is one question in here that I would actually like to throw it to DJ Adams in the chat. DJ, if you can either chat, type the answer, or maybe even speak up. There is a question. Since terminal is the future, what should be the choice of Bash terminal?
Now that's a question I like. Can you hear me, by the way?
Plant that, DJ?
Yeah.
Come on.
And it's
No,
not from DJ unless he has a fake account.
You would have heard me typing probably. And also I would have said the future is terminal rather than the terminal is future. You know, little play on words there. I prefer, I mean, it depends what you prefer, of course, but the logical choice to me is Bash. Specifically Bash as the shell, because, you know, it's the most ubiquitous. And especially as we move to cloud, that is you know, by far and beyond the most common environment in the cloud. So if you're going to do something, then use Bash.
Thank you, guest speaker, DJ.
Tom shaking his head.
Someone just made DJ's day by asking that.
I'm glad I'm not on video, because you would have seen me rubbing my hands with glue.
I'll do it for you.
Okay. So I hope that answered the question, and I can
yeah,
move
just
on.
just hit me up anytime, anywhere on any questions of that nature. I'd be more than happy to indoctrinate. Yeah,
Thanks so much, DJ. So the next question, and I'm sorry, this may have already been answered by you, Thomas, but I want to make sure, because I was keeping track of some things, so I may have missed this part. What about workshops? Will they be available as a replay or at least exercises?
Yeah, so the instructions are out there on GitHub, posted as a link before, and then now we're looking into, as Tom said, a little bit the format. Should we do it one-on-one, like repeat it and do like 2-hour workshop repeats, or put it out that we say, okay, do it on your own and come in for a certain time to check in with the experts in case you get stuck, or here's a intro to that one. So we're working still out on this concept. It's also like for us, never explore what is the better way. And this is, but it's like we want to do this in January through March.
Thank you,
Not
Tom.
all of them. I need to admit that one. Not sure we can do all of them.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. Just as a reminder, we're going through the questions that are coming in through the tool, but if you would like to raise your hand to come off mute and ask your question that way, that is also an option. But for now, we have several questions still coming in via the chat here. So next question is, part of TechEd that I like is visiting partner booths. I didn't see that this year. One thing South Africa Eventful did was hold a virtual partner hole. Partners could, now the question is gone. Oh, there it is. Was hold a virtual partner hole. Partners could offer free coffee coupons. Is that a possibility for next year, assuming it is virtual?
Yeah, so you had a partner area where a sponsored partner had their content. We decided with the partners not to do a kind of like a booth, because experience from other events has shown that these booths were not like really bringing in a lot of traffic for the partners. I like the idea with the free coffee. Haven't seen that one, so need to see what is possible.
Definitely a great idea. Okay, so the next question, I'm surprised I haven't seen this one more often. What were the Easter eggs from SAP TechEd? We probably need a separate call just for that, wouldn't we, guys?
There were a lot of Easter eggs. I'm not going to tell everybody all of them. They are there for you to find and discover over the next, what did we say, 6 months? So you have 6 months of time. I will give you some hints. They were on the tables, as Thomas just raised his mug there. They were on the tables. They were in the background. They were inside of the whole digital environment. And more importantly, there was an Easter egg hidden from our very own Marius on the Developer Advocates. There were 2 code segments in the video transitions in between segments. There was one from day 1 and one from day 2. And those 2 together actually give you a message that you can then respond to.
There's also one in the developer keynote where I'll give you a hint is that DJ does a bit of magic. See who can catch it.
Can you repeat the joke? Okay. Oh, can you repeat? Okay. Oh, this is more of a statement. I hope some of the current TechEd formats will be used in future offline TechEd, like sessions available online and via Git. I mean, we could maybe think of that as a question. I mean, did we learn some things from TechEd that we think we'll be applying in other areas? Might be a way of framing that.
Like, on that one, it was actually something we designed before we had to go virtually. So we had a big thing on like how do we establish or change like TechEd going forward. And one of the big things, like, we want to make all the content, all the great content, which is only available at the physical events to the physical attendees, broader available after the event is over to everybody. So when we went into the physical planning early this year already, like it was 2020, so okay, like after TechEd is over, the content goes out. Now with going virtually, that was kind of like then the de facto, but we also decided right away, like it's not only the 48 hours that the content is available. Looks a little bit like I get a lot of the questions of how is it going forward, hybrid, virtual. I think we have seen the great results of sharing more content. Definitely also looking forward of the further adoption. Plus, like what we saw, like also we heard it, is like how do we, if like when it is possible again to do physical events, how do we get the physical aspect also back into that one? So I don't have a plan yet. Teams are starting to think about it, how we are planning, but it's probably like long term, more like a hybrid thing. What we probably take the good stuff to share the content definitely into the TechEds going forward.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the next question, I'm still not seeing anyone raising hands, so we'll just stick to the ones that are coming in through the tool here. Would it be possible to bring in the larger ecosystem like CI/CD and DevOps topics? And how can we use that in our development process? Perhaps some sessions on using Project Piper to deploy our applications, et cetera.
Developer Keynote TechEd 2021.
Yeah, actually, when we did a little post-mortem look at Developer Keynote, and our number one thing that if we'd had just a little bit more time that we said, oh, we would have put in would have been a CI/CD pipeline for the whole project as well. And you know, just the constraints of time there on that one kept it from making it in this year. But we have done some stuff this year on Project Piper specifically, and CI/CD as part of your testing process and things like that. We've done a couple of live stream sessions on that, and we will certainly do more next year. It's an important part of the developer experience in the SAP world, and only going to grow.
Sorry, multitasking here, guys. The next one I think is a good question for you, Craig, if you don't mind me throwing it over to you. It's about the Q&A. So I believe in this case we're talking about the keynote Q&A. There was no like transcription of the Q&A, and there were hundreds of questions, so not all of them got answered. So there's probably some interest in getting those questions answered, or at least making those questions available. So is that something that you could address, Craig?
Absolutely. There are actually over 5,000 questions from all of the sessions. Now, a lot of them did get answered, but a lot of them did not. You'll already see in the, if I can grab the blog post really quick, there is a blog post already from the Media and Analyst Summit, which took place right at the start of SAP TechEd as well, where the Q&A from there has already been posted with answers. And we are now working with the teams, the various teams inside of SAP, to go after and get additional blog posts put online. If you follow the SAP TechEd tag in the community, I would recommend you follow it. Turn on your email notifications, and there will be blog posts being posted on a upcoming basis here with answers to the remaining Q&A questions. So we're already starting and running at that one. as fast as possible to get those answers for you.
And I guess somewhat related to that, Craig, is we got some feedback here, improve the UI for the Q&A for the next TechEd sessions. It's been a topic of some discussion in some podcasts that I'm seeing here. So
yeah, no, absolutely. From a UI perspective, from a platform perspective, we did our best in a short amount of time. And there is always going to be room for improvement. From a chat functionality or an ongoing chat, which is also, of course, a question I saw in the Q&A there, making things available, pushing harder, making sure we get the experts longer. These are all feedbacks that we're taking, all feedbacks that we want to hear more about, so that we can bring it in and actually work with the platform team on how we can do this and make those improvements already going into 2021.
thank you, Craig. Tammo, I do see your question here. It's a bit of the technical nature. I'll see if I can't find someone who can. Oh, you can take it?
Yeah, I just tested it. I run Ubuntu on WCF on my Windows machine in the Windows subsystem for Linux as well. And I just tested. I have the CF CLI installed there, and it works fine. So I don't think there's a general issue of it not working on Ubuntu, but the right place to go is enter an issue on GitHub. But you can also ping me on social media or something like that, send me a direct message, and I can share with you the information about my setup, because I have it running here on Ubuntu 20.04, and it works fine.
Thank you. And so moving on to the next one, can we have the chat function turned on for replays, experts? So I guess the question is, and feel free to type in a clarification if I'm not understanding it. If people have the ability to submit questions, could there be the ability, I guess, for people watching sessions to have a chat and maybe try to help each other that way as well? I should probably take this opportunity. I know Ronnie's on the call. Thanks for helping us use Discord throughout TechEd last week. That became an area where people could go and have that sort of chat. But I guess within the platform itself, are there any plans to do something like that in future? Was there any reason why we couldn't do it the first time around?
I honestly, in a case like this where it's talking about the replays, it's making the people available, right? It's the actual having the experts available that can go and sit there and do that. Or if there is a chat, isn't there kind of the expectation there's somebody in there that will be able to answer the question? So just having a random chat opened, in my mind, doesn't make a lot of sense unless we know we can put an expert in it as well. But again, feedback that we want to take forward and see what we can do about in terms of getting maybe extended office hours or extended times that those experts can be available. But again, we're also talking about the next 6 months content's available, and we're talking about doing stuff inside the SAP community with this content. So there will be more opportunities to talk to those experts.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Not surprised by this next question. Did anybody calculate, or will they calculate, what effect doing TechEd virtually had on CO2 emissions for the event, not just due to a lot less travel related emissions, but also due to how it was delivered? Not sure if we're qualified to answer that question, but I
don't know. It's a good question. I think it's definitely something we have not advertised it around, but I think it's definitely a good cause. The great thing is, I had no TechEd workshops the whole year. I did not have to travel to these things. So there was definitely on our side, on the SAP side, a very lean. We had a central studio where we produced Channel 1, but I was only in Frankfurt. And there was definitely a lot of service in there to render all the stuff. So that might be not so great, but I think then, yeah, normally we fly hundreds of people around the world to conduct all the sessions. And from an SAP side, we were able to not do that this year. So need to check back. Maybe there's if we can get the data, then maybe we need someone who is willing to put it into a nice calculator.
Okay, and maybe there's a post further down the road on this one. We'll have to see, from a sustainability point of view. But thanks for that question, and thank you for taking a crack at it there, Thomas. Can we have the session catalog as an Excel? I'm not sure how to answer that question. Does anybody have any thoughts around?
No.
Okay, that was an easy one. Okay. Thank you, sir.
It's all online. No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but let us know on the session catalog. We also use the new one, so would be definitely interested for feedback on that one. What to improve from usability. This is a little bit more flexible session catalog. We wish I would have had more time to fully flush it out. But like if you see something where it's like, let me know, I'm definitely curious to hear.
Thank you. Oh, this one's for you, Tom. Am I doing that right? Thomas versus Tom? I hope so.
Yeah.
You think I would have
Probably a
learned
little
by
less
now?
confusing that way.
Okay, this one's from Josh. A ton of questions were on where to focus education efforts for people trying to learn SAP. Any advice on what topic people should focus on?
Well, I mean, we showed a lot of emerging topics there. I mean, I think we said something when we got the question during the developer keynote. Said something like, the best skill to have is the skill to learn, right? Because it's always changing. There's no one single thing to focus on that's going to take you through the rest of your career. But we also saw some strong emerging trends, which is side-by-side extensibility to keep your S4 core clean. That's been a story for a couple of years, and we see more functionality emerging to support that, whether that's like enterprise messaging or the advances in the cloud application programming model or the RESTful application programming model. So, depending on what area you work in, if you're an ABAP developer, I think investing in RAP makes a whole lot of sense as a skill set. If you're not an ABAP developer and building cloud native, investing in CAP, the cloud application programming model, makes a lot of sense. And then for both of those parties, figuring out how to utilize enterprise messaging as the bridge between those two things. Those are three skill sets where you can't go wrong right now. I think you're on.
I have to come off mute. Thank you. I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Tom. The next question is, what is current thinking about Discord at SAP? Embrace or discourage? I did mention that we did partner with some people outside of SAP to get a Discord server going and some TechEd conversations last week. I don't know what the official policy is beyond that, but if any of you'd like to maybe address that, please feel free.
Yeah, I'll jump in. There is no official policy or something like this. The Discord that we're talking about is the one supplied by the SAP Online Track, which is a community Discord. And we did not want to fiddle with something right now, right before TechEd or anything like that, but instead we wanted to be where the community already was. So that was our use of Discord, was simply to be where you guys all are already, right? Or where a bunch of you were already. And we are very appreciative that they allowed us to kind of commandeer it, and they enhanced it with channels and things like that for TechEd. But this was us supporting community from that perspective. There's not an SAP official statement on technology here.
Okay. Thanks. So I'm just going to, the next one is not a question, just people showing some love for a lot of the great podcasts that are out there. I'm going to use that as an opportunity to promote a page we have in the community where we also list out a lot of the great podcasts that are out there. So I'll go ahead and count that one as answered. Oh, and it turns out I completely misunderstood a question from earlier. I do apologize for that. So the question was not about opening up chat, I guess, for the replays, but rather, would it be possible to enable, give people the ability to leave comments on replays, similar to like if you go into the community, you read a blog post, you can leave a comment on that post. So would it be possible to do something like that with the replays? I guess the issue there would be monitoring and making sure they don't become filled with spam and that sort of things. But I'll turn it over to the panel to see if they have any thoughts.
I would probably just chime in here again. It is definitely, if we're providing something or the ability something, we want to make sure that people are able to monitor it. Not that you guys post something and then it just kind of gets ignored. So at the moment, we have no intention or plans of enabling that on the platform. But stranger things have happened. We came into a normal year and went totally virtual. So I won't lock anything out. We're definitely taking this as a piece of feedback that we need to think about. So
I would suggest.
Go ahead.
I would suggest people go to the community and ask their question there and tag the session owner or the speaker. I've already had a few people do that in the last couple of days where like they saw one of my sessions or went to a workshop and they had a follow-up question. They went to the community, and as long as they tagged me, I get notification of that and I was able to engage with them. So that's the most important thing, is make sure that you're asking your question in a place and in a way that the original author or session presenter knows about it. And most of us are quite happy to come engage with you.
I think
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
just
I think great
on
advice.
adding to this one, it's like you probably saw that we're also getting the platforms closer together. Like, yes, we use the different platform for the TechEd event and the sessions behind, but you log on, that's the same SAP log on you use for the community. So this is like a first step. We definitely look also like into these things, from how do we get questions, community aspects or functionality, then also including the platform. This year, there was no way for us to do it. I wish we could have done it. So let's look forward what's possible in the future.
So we have still 3 questions to go, but only 5 minutes left. I'm not sure that we'll try to get to all of them. If not, we can always, I think we can always follow up in the community. That's always a possibility as well. My colleague Julia did share the profile links for our panelists today, so you can follow them and reach out to them there as well. The next question, though, is how important is RAP for future of ABAP as is mentioned as long-term strategic investment by SAP?
Very important.
Okay.
I mean, it's a framework that's now been delivered both to on-premise S4, and it is the primary framework for building service-enabled applications and Fiori-enabled applications, and certainly the primary framework for doing that anywhere in the cloud, whether you're enhancing your on-premise or you're enhancing the cloud versions of S4. What we're seeing with the announcement of the embedded steampunk in S4 in the cloud, that's all going to be driven by RAP. And I think if you look at it from a technology standpoint, that's where we've now introduced investment. The OData v4 support was just introduced there. That's the go forward support as far as new protocols, new capabilities. And if you look at what we did to embed it in the programming language itself, it isn't just a series of class libraries or something like that. It's really dropped down into the kernel. I mean, that, to me, I look at that from an architectural standpoint and go, wow, that's a serious investment. Anytime we embed something in the ABAP kernel and add new language syntax to support it, we're really serious about it.
Thank you. And just one last question. We'll try to answer it in the few minutes we have remaining here. Given the current pace of change and innovation, what do you think about, instead of 3 TechEds with similar content as usual, holding 2 TechEds 6 months apart with the most up-to-date content?
I would say, Thomas, that's all you.
Okay.
Now, so right now I know how much effort it is to put the TechEd in this format as we put it together. So right now, if you ask me, do I want to jump into another one in 6 months again? It's probably not. So this is exactly what we're looking a little bit more, is how can we keep the content which is out there still the discussion on. And then there is another thing, like normally where we have the more business side event with Sapphire in the spring focus. So there is already like a 2 big event concept at SAP. And we also like had already some further integration about technology into the Sapphire program. That was more planned on the physical, but as you know, we had to switch it then also to a virtual event there. So I wish the thing is like for us, the goal is much more to continue with the content, evolve that one. The place for that is in the community. So I think this is also a big message out to everybody. What we are working on is to make it easier for everybody to find these updates and the discussion. And central point for you to remember that is in the community. So you will see more activities around it. where do I get the latest news, where I can find, that should be a #1 spot to check it out. And then, yeah, like through activities like doing more live Q&As with experts in the community to address exactly the question, because we also know the more everybody out in the community has a great understanding about the technology. That's why we are here. That's why the advocates are here. This is our goal, like to enable you. This is my biggest KPI out there, just to make it transparent. Like for us, it's the success if you are successful. And that's why we're looking at these different types of interaction and getting the content out.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And thank you also, Tom and Craig, for joining us today. And thank all of you for participating. Thanks everybody for making TechEd such a wonderful experience last week. And we hope to see you all very soon in the SAP community. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.